Okay, let me put my presentation on here and okay. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining tonight's meeting. My name is Carla Amador. I'm the founder of the 52 Hike Challenge. And today we have a special guest on the call, Jono from O2Boost. He's an avid mountaineer. I'm going to present him in a little bit, but he's going to be talking about performance recovery, the tools and tricks that mountaineers use outdoors for I can't say the word, acclimatization, altitude sickness, AMS, and more. And so I want to first start off by thanking our sponsors, Oboes, Footwear, and REI, and they help us to do tons of free content and resources for the community to help you all, get out there safely, learn everything about the outdoors, hiking, and so much more. So thank you to the sponsors. And I want to just start off by saying that Connie, my friend, introduced me to this product, which I actually have here myself. And we use this to summit Kilimanjaro. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end. I was able to successfully climb and have no issues on the hike up. I did take it as they recommended. So we took like 2 of these tablets on the way up every single day. I know Connie was taking them prior just to kind of, as she was doing her training, I was also doing it as well. And I'm going to let Jono share a little bit more about that later on because he knows all of the information. What I can tell you is I definitely struggle with altitude sickness. So I wasn't sure I was even going to be able to summit. And I had no issues getting up. I did use Diamox. I didn't want to risk not being able to summit, but I definitely was never feeling exhausted or that I couldn't do the hike. I always felt really good physically. And I think that a big part of that was having these oxygen tablets. And every time I gave them to people on the trek, because I had extras, they all said they felt, like it really helped them as well. So I just want to start off by saying, giving gratitude to Jono who sent me the pills, and I'm going to let him introduce what he does, talk about them a little bit, but he's also going to talk about a lot of information that is really, really helpful. I also want to say that O2Boost, they're not, sponsoring this today's programming, but I did feel that it was such a great product. I wanted to share that with you all. And I also know Jono has a lot of great information for you. So just wanted to put that out there. Jono is the Chief Marketing Officer at O2Boost. He's an avid year-round mountaineer. He does a lot of backcountry skiing, snow camping, multi-day section hikes. He has many speed records, which he was telling me about prior to our call. And he just absolutely breathes, walks, talks adventure. So as you could see, he is there on top of Mount Whitney with, I believe it's his daughter there. And I have climbed this mountain, and that is what got me to share 52 hikes with you all. I had a life transformative journey on that hike, and I knew I had to share 52 hike challenge with people. And it's such a special mountain. It's one of the highest mountains in the lower 48 states. And without further ado, enough about me and 52, but let me transfer you over to Jono and let him take the show and run with it.
Well, thanks, Carla, and hi, everybody. I want to say I respect so much what you're doing here with the 52 Hikes Challenge, 52 Hike Challenge, and all the people participating in a community around the idea of getting outdoors. I think it's the secret to our mental health. I think it's the secret to successful families. And I just love seeing more and more people joining your mission. And so it's really fantastic. And I'm especially excited to talk about what I do, which is nonstop adventure, and fitting that within. I work full time. I'm a single parent, and like many of us and all on the call, I'm being pulled in a million different directions. But I know every time I'm pulled into the wilderness, it brings me a lot of personal peace and success. But what I found is that you can really hit a wall when you go out into the wilderness, and especially as it comes to elevation and acclimation. And I'll talk about O2Boost and Oxygen for Sport, our product, which is, I think it's remarkable. But prior to that, I think it's important that everybody understands that there's a lot of different tools out there to help us acclimate and help us recover at high elevation. And our bodies don't really want to be there. The two things that most important things when you're at high elevation are eating and drinking, keeping up your hydration and keeping up your food intake. And those are the two things that your body says no. You are not thirsty when you get above 5,000 to 6,000 feet. You just start losing your thirst the higher you get, and you lose your appetite. And those very quickly will lead to, symptoms that any of us who've gone even up to Denver or ski resorts, you start to feel. You can get headaches, nausea. You kind of don't want to be there. You're not having fun. That feeling can, on the trail, one, it can lead to dangerous situations, but you're just not having any fun. And the whole idea of getting out in the wilderness is to have fun. And I have found a bunch of tools that I think are really helpful to prepare for these treks. And to do so, to integrate these things into your life. I'm not a professional mountaineer. I pretend I am by the amount of permits I try to get year round, how I'm constantly, when I get home from a trip, I'm trying to book the next trip. But the only thing that really helps is a handful of things that I'll share. One is you can start acclimating days before you go on your trip. Start drinking water. Just the hydration alone. Chugging water at the trailhead it doesn't help. I mean, it's better than having no water, but what you really want to do is be drinking lots of water, meaning 3 liters a day at least, a couple days before. We as people, we typically don't drink that much water. And so if you stop yourself before a hike and plan it out, that can make a really big difference. Also, everyone's probably seen now, there's lots of different products. One of them is called Liquid IV. That's really popular, probably the most popular. But there's a whole bunch of products in that category line. And electrolytes, those to me have been an absolute savior. And my trick with electrolytes is not to drink them in my water bottle, but to actually make a small shot, maybe a cup worth, a cup of water. And it will be very strong, but to shoot that, to chug that, whether it's at the trailhead before you go or at the summit, but during the journey, you're having different bursts of electrolytes, I find. And you can do those in the form of gummies now. There's lots of really good gummies, all sorts of different tablets that you can let dissolve in your mouth. And I'd be happy to if anyone ever wants to DM me on social media, I'll always share. Love sharing all the different products that I've been using over the years and found. And a lot of them are just things we find in our kitchens. I mean, beets are incredible. Beet juice. If you have a juicer making beet juice, eating beets, all these little, they're sort of old wives' tales, but I have found that they can make a big difference as you're leading up to these expeditions. Other things that people find that I personally don't drink caffeine, but caffeine's another really positive, can be your friend. And we also, in life, we try to shy away from sugar, but sugar can also be your friend when you're in the wilderness and in a high elevation setting. So one of the ways to do that you can do that is mints. If you travel with mints, finding things that are sweet, because your body doesn't want to eat and it doesn't want to drink, you have to entice it. It's not as simple as just bringing your favorite meal, because your favorite meal at sea level, might not be your favorite meal at 8,000 feet. It really has to be something that you crave and you want. Sweets and salt are always great, because when you get into those extreme environments, those are the types of foods that you can end up you crave. And I've always found it's important to figure out what is your absolute sort of secret crave in food, and then bring that up, because it's very hard to eat when you're up there. And so obviously if you love it, it makes a big difference. And then various, snack foods so that you're constantly eating. or I mean constantly, meaning every few hours, you're getting a reasonable amount of calories, arguably up to 300 calories an hour, depending on how hard you're going. Gels are great for that. And you can make all sorts of things at home. I have a dehydrator, so I'm constantly dehydrating fruits and vegetables. One, it helps with weight, but also things like mango, dehydrating the mango. They're really great for energy, and they're easy to eat and delectable. And I think that's really important. Let's see some other things that I think, acclimation is only a piece of the puzzle. Getting yourself prepared to feel good in those high elevation situations. It's always important to remember, if you really feel bad, you can descend. And sometimes even descending 500 feet, 1,000 feet, and stopping and resting, that can make a huge difference. The other thing is recovery. You can recover while you're up there. Your body's in a constant state of deterioration the higher you go. Your muscles will start aching more. But you can do there are lots of tricks with these various products to help fight that aggressively. And so I found that when you're up high, like I mentioned, mints are a big, like Altoids are a big secret of mine. They help keep your mouth moist. When you're up there breathing, you're breathing air that's really dry. You start to dry out your mouth. Eating and drinking, they already are hard. You're making them even harder on yourself, as your mouth will get drier. So, and also with Altoids, even though it's not a lot of sugar, that little bit amount of sugar can really change your attitude. And as you know, as anyone who hikes, your attitude can change really quickly with the sun, the weather conditions, all these different factors. And nutrition, I found, is one where I can completely change my frame of mind, where I can be out in the higher elevations feeling bad and very quickly change my situation with just literally a simple cracker. Or it doesn't always have to be. Sometimes it's your body needs carbs. Sometimes your body needs sugar. And it's I always tell my children, the acclimation is a very personal thing. You'll be standing next to someone, and you may have seen this on Kilimanjaro. Some people will walk right up that mountain and they won't take anything, and they'll just smile and high five when they get to the top. The same person who looks exactly the same won't be able to get past 10,000 feet without taking a day of rest, or going down and up and having to stage their ascent. It's all different. So I think it's important that we each, as we approach going to higher elevations, recognizing that the person next to you is not going to necessarily be a good guide for what your body needs. And our bodies tell us really quickly, as you know, on the trail. Your feet, your blisters, hot spots, your stomach, headaches, they all start acting up in different ways. And I found that the high elevation ones, the AMS, all these symptoms that will start to kick in, can really be addressed if you're paying attention to your body and start to notice that you're feeling sluggish, or you're feeling a little nauseous, and you can stop and even if it's just a saltine or a cracker or some carbs, very quickly reverse how you feel. So I was doing all this crazy stuff. I wake up every morning and I'm looking for permits. And again, if anyone would like to DM me to learn about finding permits in California, I'm better than Colorado, but I'm getting pretty good at finding permits. And then building a life that has a full-time job, 5 days a week as a single parent. And how do I fit in the exercise and the training that I need to fit in by the week? And how do I then on the weekends try to string together these adventures that really should take multiple days? But I don't have that kind of time. And so preparing yourself for high elevation when you don't have a couple days to go up and acclimate at 6,000, 8,000, 10,000 feet on your way up, you can ahead of time, as I mentioned, get ahead of it with water and a lot of these other tools. So I was doing that, and a friend of mine who's also a mountaineer, he said, my father is the president of a company that makes powdered oxygen, and they know that you do high elevation travel, and they want you to try it. And I said, there's no such thing as powdered oxygen, so it doesn't make any sense to me. But as someone who's always trying these new things and different products and supplements to help my body perform, I tried a product, as you mentioned, called O2Boost. This is long before I became a part of the company. And I did a section hike of the John Muir Trail that was about 60 miles long. And I did it with a bunch of 25-year-olds. Now, I'm 55 now, and at the time I was 53. And we were doing upwards of 15 to 20 miles a day, and then waking up again and doing it the next day. And what I found was that both on the front end, meaning the acclimation side, there's no substitute for your body creating red blood cells. You can use Diamox is probably the only thing that I know of that can really help with the production of red blood cells, which is how you acclimate. So it really is a time equation, spending time working your way up higher. When you're adding supplemental oxygen, extra bioavailable oxygen into the body, it means your lungs don't have to work as hard. You have more breath, and your body, your muscles are getting more oxygen through the circulatory system. And that's what causes us to slow down or causes us to breathe, is the onset of lactic acid. That's the burning in our legs when we're hiking. That's lactic acid. When we stop, it goes away because oxygen comes through and helps clear it out. And so I, in these extreme environments, started trying the product, the Oxygen for Sport product, and found that it was a really great addition to these tools that I was using to both acclimate and then recover. So not only can I perform at a high elevation, but you have to wake up the next morning and get yourself either out or get yourself further along on the journey. And if you're pushing yourself, even if you're doing 10-mile days, that's really at elevation, that's really hard on the body. And I'm a weekend warrior. I'm not, if you're a pro, these guys can bang it out and wake up the next morning and their muscles are ready for that. That's not me. I don't have that luxury. So I've had to figure out what are the different tools to make it so I can live a life that resembles a professional mountaineer. I mean, I'm always going, but I have to use different, for lack of a better word, supplements to make it so that I can perform at full capacity. And so it was kind of this weird life moment where my number one hobby, which is being in the mountains, met with a professional opportunity. And during the pandemic, which, as you recall, it was a very weird time for the outdoor world. We had our trailheads were closed, and there was a while before they opened up. And so once they opened back up, it was like, a kid in a candy store. I just went nonstop. And that's when it was really figuring out which of these products work and which of them I want to sort of share with both my family and my friends, because the feeling good in a high elevation environment is a euphoric experience. And I think that when we go out and just on a hike, any hike, we bring back with us something special that we can share with our community. And I have found that the higher I go and the further I go, I'm able to bring more back, and it fulfills me more, and it helps me be a better member of my community. And that's really what this all was. The drive of all this was about participating in something that made me feel better about myself and how I was participating in the world and uplifting those around me and trying to be into service of the people around me, whether it's family or friends. And that's what was so exciting about seeing the 52 Hike Challenge, is that this is a prescription for the future of our future generations. We know what's happening to them with the screens. We're finally having a dialogue that's positive about the advent of social media and screens and young people. And the idea of getting out and every single week it's one we live in this family. So it's really nice to be able to connect with your community and share some of the things that I'm doing in mine.
Thank you, Jono. Really appreciate your story and all of the feedback you've given us. And I do want to comment on what you said about the altitude. The couple of times that I've been up at extreme altitude, I have had that euphoric state, which is an interesting state that I would almost say is an altered state.
Mhm.
And the dream of 52 came with the idea of writing this book. And I was going to start off by saying, I don't know if I would, it was altitude sickness, but I had this just crazy walk with God, the universe, when I was on Whitney. And that is a state that also, when I was on top of Kilimanjaro, I had a very similar feeling up there where it was like everything felt like a dream. On
Yeah.
the last day when we were going to summit, it was the weirdest. It was like everything was just silence and like just take that step and focus on your breath. And I'm a longtime meditator, and that's a big part of it, is like focusing on the breath, and you can reach these altered states with the breath. And so yeah, there is a lack of oxygen going to the brain, right? But it is something that I would say is life changing, and those two summits have really realigned me to like not only this sense of like, wow, like I did something really, really powerful for myself, but it also like connects me to this state that I don't know that I can reach those states very often, right?
Yeah.
I reach a lot of that in meditation, but it's very different as well. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the information you shared was really important and key. I think, obviously being aware of also like if you're up at altitude and you start feeling sick, knowing your limits and hey, it's either time to call it, like you said, either take a snack, stop, take your snack, assess and see how you feel, and also like know when it's time to turn around, because if you get severe altitude sickness, it can also be extremely dangerous. And so I just want to comment on being mindful and knowing like the differences between like AMS, which is the acute mountain sickness, versus, edema, having edema, which is what pulmonary edema, where your lungs are starting to get filled with fluid and can cause really bad, sickness and death. Or for example, haze, right? Which is when what's the difference between
That's the cerebral one. That's the
yeah,
brain filling
the
with
brain
fluid.
filling with fluid. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
you may not even, if you don't realize it, you may not be able to make those decisions for yourself. So I would almost say like when you're doing mountaineering or you're climbing high altitude, you want to be with a group of people ideally, because they'll be able to, hopefully you'll check in with each other and say like, hey, how are you feeling? Like I can get very bad. I actually on Kilimanjaro, on my way down, not on the way up, on the way down, I had symptoms of altitude sickness, which for me are like really bad headache, and just feeling like completely nauseous and sick and just wanting to like lay down and not wake up for the next day or so. But it didn't happen to me until I was coming down, and that happens to me, and it's very strange. That's my body. And Jono, I'm the person who absolutely, my body needs tons of goo,
Yeah.
needs tons of food. I constantly have to eat. I have to have my bottle full of electrolytes. I
Yeah.
cannot, I can't state enough, like if you're going to be looking to do mountaineering, you need to start training little by little and see what your body needs are, and don't be the person. I always say, if you're halfway through your water and halfway through your food, turn around.
Yeah.
Don't push yourself to that next level, because getting sick is just, it's not worth it. And also it's like mountain climbing, especially altitude and elevation, it's a serious thing. It's not something to play with. The mountain will always be there. So also let this be an educational moment of like taking care of yourself and not letting what's called summit fever get the best of you.
Yeah.
I always say this, when I did Kilimanjaro, I always told the group, I said, we may not make it, and we need to be okay with that from the get-go. And every time you go climb a mountain, whether it's Mount Whitney or your highest point in your state, have that mentality like, I'm going to try, but it's also okay if I don't make that. If I don't make it, if I have to turn around, if I have to make these difficult decisions for myself. I think a big part of the journey is being able to say, it's okay to turn around, and there's nothing to prove to anyone. So I think I'm gonna leave it there. Julie
That's
has
a
a
but that's
comment. She says,
that's a
"Oh, go
great
ahead."
point. I was just going to say that's a really good point. I try to create foster an environment where you can brag about turning around. It's a matter of pride.
Yes.
You did it, because making that decision is really hard sometimes, but it's the right one. And summit fever is real, as you mentioned.
Yes, it is. And you don't make the right choices when you have altitude sickness. You can really be kind of dizzy and like confused. And, again, just we want here at 52 to educate you so that you can keep doing this for the rest of your lives, right? Like that's a big part of our mission here. And yeah, absolutely. The views at the top, like Julie says, like Jono says, I mean, they're always breathtaking, fulfilling. You get the sense that, that you're just like, wow, like this is incredible. And it makes you feel like your problems are so small, and I think that's the beauty of and I would say that climbing mountains is where I personally grew the most, because it kind of gave me this ability to get past my comfort zone and doing it safely, right? I think there's nothing like that builds our confidence and helps us to realize, like, wow, like what if I do this outside of the mountains, and what am I capable of if I constantly just give myself that little push of that fear of like, maybe I can't do this thing. And you try and you get there. And even if you don't, you still have experience for the next time. You know how to prepare, you know what the trail will look like. I mean, that's why I don't believe in failing. I feel in like it's an experience to help you get there the next time. And there's always another opportunity to try again. Uh, so Jono, do you have any other notes, or does anyone want to ask any questions as we're talking about this? In the meantime, you're welcome to either put it in the comment or unmute yourself and ask any other questions. But Jono, is there anything else you want to add?
Well, yeah, I would add just a teeny bit more about. I mean, powdered oxygen sounds like fake news. I get that. It doesn't make any sense. There's no comparable product. It's real. I use it with my children, my parents. My father's 95 now. He's still an adventurer. That's kind of how I got into all the adventure. We have a website that Carla will share as well. But we're a very small company. There's really two of us that run the day to day. We're very much a startup. We have a what we consider to be a revolutionary breakthrough in science, and it's a complete game changer when it comes to performance and recovery, and that's what for me it's been really exciting, because all the things you're talking about have been made better by me understanding how my body works and what are the different things I can do to put my body in the best position. And the oxygen for sport is fantastic for high elevation, but it's also really good for any time your body needs a little more oxygen, which is, for people who might be hungover, but also your mental acuity, your sharpness is all oxygen related. So that's another big piece of it, making decisions at high elevation.
Did we have a question? I think someone. Go ahead. Okay, I'm not sure if someone was going to ask a question, but I'll go ahead and mute them. And in the meantime, Dawn wanted to know where we can get O2Boost and how do we take it. So Dawn, I'm actually going to share my screen here, and I will let Jono let you know how to take it. But basically, O2Boost, they were really kind and gave everyone a 25% off discount on your first purchase with the code 52 hikes at their website. It's just O2 BOOST66.com. And like you can see here, reduces lactic acid burn, increases endurance, faster recovery time, allows you to extend your aerobic capacity, enhances performance at high elevation, and has been clinically shown increase the VO2 max. Jono, would you share a little bit about VO2 max and what that is for those people that don't know what that is, and also maybe just talk a little bit more about how, you know, the product works, or how to take it and all of that?
100%, and it is a, since there is no comparable product, how it works, I think, is important as well. But the VO2 max is allowing us is allowing our body to perform at its ultimate. I'm not going to the right word. Our most efficient, and pushing ourselves the hardest. Sorry, and just to back to the question, we say for things like that we're doing in the wilderness, and extreme exercise, we say we took 2 capsules a half an hour before, and then your body sort of lets you know as if you need more. Each capsule has, you know, particles in it. They're tiny. You can barely see them. They're so small. And each particle within it has oxygen molecules, actual O2. And it's important that it delivers diatomic oxygen, O2, and not other products are delivered. There's other types of oxygen, but our body needs O2. And so the capsule goes into our stomachs, and it breaks down. The acidity of the stomach breaks down the capsule and the particles, and releases oxygen into the circulatory system. And it goes to, therefore, then travels to where your body needs oxygen. There's a thing called the oxygen gradient that your body, when it's in need of oxygen, it will grab it and take it. So if we're introducing extra supplemental oxygen into the body that's bioavailable oxygen, your body will use it up, which means your lungs don't have to work harder to bring in oxygen. And so when you don't have to work harder, you have more breath, you have more endurance, more stamina, and you can go for longer. And that's where the lactic acid burn is really noticeable, because we all know what it feels like. Just walking up the stairs, you can get it. Stop at the top of the stairs and it goes away. And, you know, I've had countless people call me and say, I can't believe I have to walk up 3 flights of stairs at work now, and it's easier. There's plenty of real life applications, but I found that I use it most when I'm pushing myself in a cardiovascular situation.
Got it. And then just for those of us that don't know what VO2 max is.
Oh, so VO2 max is your body's ability to take oxygen and use it at its full potential. And we're not always in that state. We're in fact, most of the time, we're not. Our VO2 max is lower than it should be. And there's a lot of ways to increase it. And when you increase it, they believe that it will expand life expectancy. There's a whole bunch of things that they're figuring out that are tied to it. It's how efficiently does your body take oxygen and then use it? And we want it to be as efficient as possible, which then in turn will allow you to have less acclimation issues, less AMS. And we found this can happen as low as 5,000 feet, is where people will start to sort of feel symptoms when they're traveling. Doesn't necessarily have to be mountaineering. It can be simply going to a ski resort or going to, you know, Santa Fe.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us, for those that are not familiar with that. And then Raghu says, what are the main ingredients and any side effects? He just said for 0.25 tablets, it's 125 plus discount. Thank you. And free shipping. Why is it so expensive? And is it eligible for HSA, FSA? Question mark.
The answer the last first, soon, we expect it soon to be available for HSA, but it is not at the moment, or FSA. It is expensive because it's an invention. We have to make this product in the lab. We're the only people who we do it under a trade secret. There's no competitor because no one else can do it. And we do it by hand. It's a manual process at the moment. We will automate it. We already have at our plant the plans for automation. So the first wave of big investment will go to automation, which will allow us to lower the price. We know it's expensive. I hate how expensive it is. Constantly trying to make sure there's free shipping, constantly trying to give discount codes where I can. We really wish it was more accessible price-wise. We're really right now as a startup trying to price it so we break even. This is not, you know, we have to make it less for less. But there was a couple other pieces to the question.
yeah, what are the main ingredients and any other side effects? And
Okay,
thank you for sharing that. And I just want to, before you add that, you know, just also as a small business ourselves, 52 hikes, right? Like we still have a team, and it can be it can be interesting just to be like, hey, we're trying to do this in a way that's sustainable long term, you know. So we still also have to, you know, have sponsorship at times and be able
that's right.
to sell things, because otherwise we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be able to do this work and bring it to all the people. So
That's
thank you
right.
for the clarity on that. And also, yeah. So the next
Well,
question.
wait, just quickly, there are two ingredients. One ingredient is oxygen, and the other ingredient is aluminum hydroxide. And aluminum hydroxide, not to be confused with aluminum chloride or aluminum sodium or these other nasty aluminums. Aluminum hydroxide is a natural mineral. You find it in Rolaids, Tums, Mylanta, Maalox. We've been using it for over 70 years, and it's a FDA approved, EU approved, very, very mild. Um, and it's just those two ingredients. In the next few weeks, we'll receive what's called sport certification from a company called Informed Sport out of the UK, and it's a global certification ensuring that there's no banned substances. That it's exactly what we say is in there. Two ingredients, both are natural. It's non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, really mild. Side effects, we don't know of any side effects. Negative side effects. We've had people using it for over 10 years. We've done clinical studies ranging from animals to humans, and we've had no negative side effects to date.
Thank you so much, Jono. I think unless anyone else has any other questions, I think, you know, and that was a great question, Raghu. Thank you. And then also, oh, Julie, hey, I'm a nurse, so I'm used to using the pulse ox reader to determine O2 use. Any
Yes.
subtle symptoms when you know to take the supplement, and how often? Great question, Julie. And let's close it out with, actually, I will talk about this because on Kilimanjaro, they took our pulse every single day. And I can honestly say that, like, I was always doing really well. And I was taking this every day. I honestly will say that I won't ever know what, I know I felt great. I won't ever know what a big impact this made on, because I took it and I took the Diamox, because I was like, I'm in Africa. I can't not summit. I'm going to do everything I can to summit, but I would like to test out here what my body does when I take it, and maybe I climb the same peak and I don't take it, right?
Yeah.
And taking that, you sent me one actually, Jono,
Yeah.
the pulse reader. So yeah, thank you for that, Julie. So go ahead, and if you could please talk about that.
So I just returned a few days ago from this hike, 60 miles over 2 nights, summit of Mount Whitney. I brought a pulse oximeter with me, and I would test it. And so I'm cutting together a video that I'll be able to share with you, and you can share with your community shortly.
Mm-hmm.
But I was seeing my readings at 81 when I would wake up, and that's really low. If you had an 81 right now at sea level, if I did right now, I'd be on the way to the hospital. And I was able to get them from 81 up into the low 90s. And low 90s is fantastic if you're in that situation. I would think at Kilimanjaro, you guys were probably way down in the low 80s, even the 70s at some point.
Yeah, I'm gonna look, see if I can find my little thing, but my
Yeah.
little,
And
I
so
had a little chart.
yeah, it's so I've been I always bring one with me, and just to see where it moves. Separately from mountaineering, it's a really fantastic product for any respiratory illness, like a COVID-19 or a pneumonia. And that's another place where pulse oximeters are super effective in understanding the impact. Because when we're in respiratory distress, our pulse ox goes way down, and we're able to use the product to get it right back up.
Is there a so any subtle symptoms when you know to take the supplement, and how often? Well, you said it was
Well,
2 tablets.
I take, yeah, one or two depending on what you're doing. We've had I've taken 50. I mean, you can take it's so mild. There's no and we've in testing had over 1,000 consumed. It's very, very mild. You're in terms of, I always think of it in terms of being prepared. So if I'm going to go out into the wilderness, I take it a half an hour before I go. If I'm going to go jogging, a half an hour. So rather than my body saying, "Hey, I need this," I know I'm going to need supplemental oxygen because I'm putting myself in a distressed situation. I would say, we have lots of people who, when you wake up, and I'm not saying you're hungover, but a lot of days you wake up feeling hungover, meaning you're tired, your eyes are, your body just isn't moving yet. Oxygen is a wonderful thing to give to yourself. It's the number one element our body needs. We can't go very far without it. Yeah, so I just saw some more questions pop up. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Couple more questions from Raghu. What is the shelf life of the product, and will he get it before July 15th if ordered today? He's due, or he or she, I apologize, I'm not sure. But they are doing Mount Sherman, which is the easiest 14er, and Quandary Peak in Colorado. Nice. Congrats. I love Quandary Peak. I've done it. It's great.
Oh, nice.
Beautiful.
Sorry, yes, we can get it to you in that time frame. Before the 15th, I could send it tomorrow and get it to you before the 15th. I think that's the day you leave. I think I heard. And then it was a two-part question.
And what is the shelf life?
Oh, years. I mean, we say it's 2 years, but we know it's much longer than that.
Yeah, it's like most things, you have to put an end date by like a use by date, but they always say like it's still usually fine for a couple years after.
Yeah,
but
there's it doesn't deteriorate, and it's worth noting that people don't like taking capsules. You can break the powder open and put it into a drink, and it doesn't dissolve. So by that I mean you can make a shot of it and carry it with you, and when you take it is when it activates. It doesn't like dissolve in the water. It doesn't activate and open, releasing oxygen. The only thing that releases it is the acidity of the human body, which is this. We got lucky. It's really lucky. That's
awesome. As someone who's working on an invention right now, I understand how this process can work. It's just interesting. Mine is not scientific at all. Mine is very novelty, but I'm excited. It is hiking related, so I'm looking forward to sharing that soon. I hope.
Good.
We're on second level of edits. We did our first prototype and figured we needed second set of prototypes. So, okay.
Oh, great. I just saw, did Julie just say how often?
Yes.
Yeah. So I take the product every day, and I do that because it has absolutely reversed my arthritis. And autoimmune disorders. I have psoriatic arthritis, I have psoriasis, and it's completely eradicated. My mother uses it every day for her arthritis. And we have a handful of people who use it every day for autoimmune disorders or eczema. Oddly, an oral can take care of certain, not all, but certain skin disorders, especially the ones that are autoimmune related. These are early days that we're just discovering all this stuff, but because it's a mild product and we haven't had an issue with people having side effects, we've tried it in a whole bunch of different indications, and it's absolutely remarkable for those. So those are some others that have been seen great results.
That's awesome. I actually have and suffer from eczema, and what I've done is I cut out a lot of gluten, and I try to cut as much sugar as I can. And I recently had a little a flare up. So since you just sent me a new thing, I'm going to take it and see how it helps. Thank you for that.
Rashes disappear with people, but
wow, everyone, thank you so much for everything. Oh yeah, there's more. So it says, so can you take more than 2 in a day if you're feeling the symptoms?
100%. My father, when he's 95 years old now, at 94, he had COVID. I was giving him 4 at a time. And I just, on my descent from Whitney, well, for anyone who out there who really pushes yourself, and I know you've been there, Carla, when you can't take another step and your body's like, knock it off. I cannot. Your attitude is like, you just need to be at the trailhead and back at your car. You've still got miles. Downhill hurts. It really hurts, as you know. I took 6 capsules the other day. And this was last Saturday. I was descending. I was filming myself. I said, I feel horrible. I'm going to take a big dose. So I took 6. I only had 6 capsules left in my little pouch. So I took all 6 of them. And I filmed myself 2 hours later running across that little, the trailhead with the big wood thing, running through there, literally like this, filming myself, going, I feel great. I mean, it was complete reversal in how I feel. The body it's a very mild product, so you can experiment with it. I found that in that extreme environment, I was at the end of 55 hours of nonstop travel. So that's a situation where, taking a 6 it made a lot of sense to me, and it actually worked great. Yeah. But we're still learning a lot about it. We know it's safe, so I feel very comfortable in having these types of conversations. But we love feedback because people are coming back to us now and telling us the impact it's having on them, which is different for everyone. 20 to 30 minutes is typically, and it's not a euphoric feeling either. That's worth noting. No. You don't feel euphoria. It's not a drug. But in about 20 to 30 minutes, you'll start to notice it helping. You still get, as you know, remember, you still get out of breath. I mean, it does not make you a superhuman, but it does allow for much more strength in the legs, faster recovery, and certainly this help with your breath.
Yeah, and for sure, I can attest to the fact that, again, on Kilimanjaro, I never felt, I never was like exhausted the next day or felt I couldn't, move through the day. And I forget how many I was taking. I don't know if I was taking 2 extra. I think I was taking 2 of the extra capsules, or I was taking. I don't remember what I was taking, but I think I was taking 2 a day or something like that.
Yeah, I think I might have also sent you some extra strength capsules because you were in such an extreme environment. I wanted to make it easier on you not to have to carry so many. So we could take 1 instead of 3, kind of,
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And like I said, I did share them with some of the people and they were like, that was great. Can I have another? And I was like, yes, so it definitely helped. And thank you again, Jono, for being here. Everyone who participated, all your questions were so great. And again, really just thought this would be a great topic to share. I know a lot of people want to go from maybe just doing their local hikes to how do I get to this next level? And so really great information, and, really appreciate you, Jono. And especially, I think it's so inspiring that, I just keep getting inspired by people and saying like, age is just a number. I recently coached someone who was like, I think I'm too old for backpacking. And I'm like, you are definitely not too old for backpacking. You are definitely not too old to follow that dream you have. You're not too old to climb a mountain. It's all about how you take care of yourself, how you train, and surrounding yourself with good information and people. So thank you all for being a part of this. And anything else before we let everyone
I'll end with
get
this.
on?
If anyone finds me on social media, Jono Hart 13, Jono Hart 13, feel free to DM me if you have questions, anything. I'm really open, happy to help, and I'm really inspired by what you're doing with this community in 52 Hikes. And if I can help in any way, I'm here as a resource.
Thank you. And Dawn said she just turned 60 and planning a Yosemite trip. Woo!
That's what we like to hear.
Enjoy.
Yeah.
All right, well, everyone will have a wonderful, wonderful time. And this recording will be available on YouTube in a couple days. So be on the lookout if you need to, verify any information. I'll also add the code to the email. And thank you again so much, Jono, for that, and appreciate it. And we'll see you soon.